Good day. Welcome to News Express. Today, let's take a deeper look at a political development that is beginning to reshape conversations within Nigeria's democratic space. It is bold, it is unconventional, and it carries with both excitement and skepticism in equal measure. At the center of this conversation is Aisha Yusuf and her potential bid for the Senate seat representing the Federal Capital Territory. This is not just another political story. It is a moment that raises broader questions about the nature of leadership, the structure of political participation, and the evolving expectations of Nigerian voters as the country gradually moves towards another election cycle. For years, Aisha Yusuf has been widely recognized as one of Nigeria's most outspoken civic voices. Her public presence has been defined not by political office, but by consistent engagement with national issues, often challenging policies, questioning decisions, and calling for accountability from those in power. She rose to prominence through activism, gaining national and international attention for her role in advocacy movements that demanded justice, transparency, and better governance. This background is significant because it places her outside the traditional pipeline through which most Nigerian politicians emerge. She is not the product of political dynasty, nor is she deeply rooted in long-established party structures. Instead, she represents a different kind of political entry point, one that is increasingly shaped by civic engagement and public trust, rather than party hierarchy. This is where the idea of disruption becomes central to the discussion. Nigeria's political system has, for decades, been dominated by entrenched interests, established networks, and a predictable pattern of leadership transitions. The Senate, in particular, has often been seen as a space occupied by seasoned politicians who have climbed the ranks through party loyalty, strategic alliance, and financial influence. A candidate like Yusuf represents a clear departure from the norm. Her candidacy challenges the assumption that only those who have long operated within the political system are qualified to lead within it. For many observers, this alone is enough to classify her entry as disruptive. However, disruption in politics is a complex phenomenon. It is not simply about entering the system from the outside. It is about the ability to sustain influence, build coalitions, and translate public support into tangible legislative impact. While Yusuf's supporters view her as a breath of fresh air, critics question whether her background in activism can seamlessly translate into effective lawmaking. They argue that governance requires negotiation, compromise, and an understanding of institutional processes that are often developed over years within the political system. This tension between idealism and pragmatism lies at the heart of the debate surrounding her potential Senate bid. Another dimension that cannot be overlooked is the platform through which she may contest. The ADC has been mentioned as a possible political vehicle for her ambition. The party itself occupies an interesting position within Nigeria's political landscape. It is not among the dominant parties that have historically controlled power at the federal level, but it has consistently positioned itself as an alternative for those seeking a departure from the status quo. If Yusuf chooses to run under this platform, her candidacy could significantly elevate the party's visibility and relevance, particularly among younger voters and those disillusioned with mainstream politics. This raises an important question. Is this merely a disruption, or could it signal the emergence of a new political direction? For many Nigerians, especially the youth, There is a growing appetite for leaders who are perceived as authentic, transparent, and accountable. The traditional makers of political success, such as long tenure within party structures or access to financial resources, are increasingly being challenged by a desire for credibility and integrity. In this context, Yesufu'S candidacy could be seen as part of a broader shift in how political leadership is defined and evaluated. Yet, it would be an oversimplification to assume that public sentiment alone can secure electoral success. Nigeria's electoral system is complex, influenced by a range of factors including party strength, voter mobilization, regional dynamics, and in many cases, financial capacity. The Federal Capital Territory, while unique in its composition, is not exempt from these realities. Winning a Senate seat requires more than popularity. It demands a well-coordinated campaign strategy, effective grassroots engagement, and the ability to navigate the logistical challenges of electioneering. These are areas where traditional political actors often have a significant advantage. Supporters of Yesufu'S argue that her strength lies precisely in her ability to mobilize a different kind of support base. They point to the growing influence of digital platforms, civic networks, and youth-driven movements that have begun to reshape political engagement in Nigeria. In their view, the tools of political influence are changing, and candidates who can effectively leverage these tools may be able to overcome some of the structural disadvantages they face. They see her candidacy not just as a campaign, but as a movement that could inspire broader participation in the democratic process. At the same time, there are concerns about sustainability. Political movements that are driven by momentum and public enthusiasm often face challenges when it comes to maintaining cohesion over time. The transition from activism to governance requires not only a shift in strategy, but also a redefinition of rules and expectations. Supporters who are accustomed to advocacy may need to adjust the realities of legislative processes, where progress is often incremental rather than immediate. Managing these expectations will be critical to the long-term success of any such political endeavor. There is also the question of opposition. Any candidate who positions themselves as a disruptor is likely to face resistance from established interests. This resistance can take many forms, from political pushback to narrative shaping aimed at questioning credibility or readiness for office. How Yesufu'S navigates this environment will play a significant role in determining whether her candidacy gains traction or loses momentum. In many ways, the response of the political establishment will be just as important as the support she receives from the public. Beyond the immediate electoral implications, this development speaks to a larger conversation about the future of Nigerian democracy. As more individuals from non-traditional backgrounds consider entering politics, the lines between activism and governance may continue to blur. This could lead to a more diverse and dynamic political landscape, where different perspectives are presented and new ideas are introduced. However, it also presents challenges in terms of integrating these new voices into existing institutional frameworks. In the final analysis, the question of whether Aisha Yesufu'S Senate bid represents disruption or the future of politics in Nigeria does not have a simple answer. It is, in many ways, both. It is a disruption because it challenges established norms and introduces a new kind of political actor into the system. At the same time, it could represent the future of it successfully demonstrates that alternative pathways to leadership and not only possible but effective. As Nigeria moves closer to its next election cycle, all eyes will be on developments like this. They offer a glimpse into the evolving nature of political participation and the shifting expectations of the electorate. Whether this particular candidacy will succeed remains to be seen, but its significance lies in the conversation it has already started. A conversation about who gets to lead, how leadership is defined, and what the future of Nigerian democracy might look like. Because, in the end, politics is not just about winning elections. It is about shaping the direction of a nation, and sometimes it takes a disruption to redefine that direction. That's all for now on News Express. To our amazing viewers, kindly like, subscribe, and share this video. I'm Chidera Esom. Thank you for watching. Do have a beautiful day.